Thank you very much, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. Excellent, of course, to be here at the Apprenticeship Branding Conference today. Excellent to be here today because I'm delighted to be able to share this new insight with you. Now, everything we do at UCAS, whether that's our information, advice and guidance for teachers and careers advisors or our services for employers, it's all got the heartbeat of fair access and widening participation running through it. So we're really proud to be able to share with you today what we've learned through our research and the new insight we're bringing today about how diverse groups experience the careers and education landscape. So a bit of background. Some of you might have read our reports that we released last year called Project Next Generation. Now, we know that young people are mapping out their futures earlier than ever before, and the aim of Project Next Generation was to understand what they're planning for the future, how they're choosing their next steps, and to take a really close look at the priorities and values driving those decisions. We wanted this to be a future-facing study, so not looking in the rearview mirror, but finding out what people are thinking and feeling in the moment, right at the time they're making those critical choices about the future. So we surveyed and we spoke to over 1,000 young people aged 13 to 17 from across the UK to make sure that we got a really deep understanding of what they're thinking and feeling, in real time. And we turned this into last year's Project Next Generation reports. And the insight that I'm going to share with you today delves deeper into this data through the lens of 4 distinct diverse groups. So that's neurodiverse people, people from ethnically diverse backgrounds, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and women considering careers in STEM. So let's take a look at what we found and what this tells us about how employers and educators can best connect with those groups. So our first group is made up of those people that consider themselves to be neurodiverse. And these are people that said that they had autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, ADHD, Tourette's syndrome, or any other form of neurodivergence. And this group accounted for around 1 in 4 of the 1,000 people that we surveyed. So we can draw some interesting indicative conclusions from that data. And I'm going to start with something that really stood out quite starkly amongst this group and perhaps feeds into some of what's behind some of the other findings today. And that is that they are significantly less likely than the non-neurodiverse group to feel positive about their lives now or about how their lives will turn out in the future. And this could be connected with the support they get from school or from home or other services, or because of the challenges that they face through their education journey to date. But for employers and providers, I think it raises questions about how messaging to this group can be tailored around positivity, around optimism, creating a sense of belonging and letting them know that they'll be supported in the workplace, especially when you consider that they're much more worried about their mental health, their physical health, and feeling lonely and isolated. So building on this, we asked people what they were looking forward to when they thought about their future. And the neurodiverse group were less likely to be excited about building a career or starting work, which suggests that perhaps there's a perception that this group has of additional hurdles to overcome when considering their future. They're also less likely to find travel and exploring the world appealing to them. And this could be because they feel overwhelmed by those endless possibilities, or because individuals who are neurodiverse may be less likely to have had those sort of experiences in childhood. But they are definitely looking forward to earning their own money just as much as the non-neurodiverse group. And they're more excited about the prospect of finishing their exams and giving up study. And there may be a line we can draw here between the way that teaching and assessment is delivered in schools and the fact that neurodiverse people are more likely to consider going to work or an apprenticeship than they are to consider going to university. But what stands out as well is that this group are actually very unsure about their post-18 future. And they're more likely to have told us that they have no idea of what career they'd like to do. And that's possibly because they're also less likely than the non-neurodiverse group to have given their future any thought at all. Maybe again linking back to them finding those endless possibilities overwhelming. This group are less confident, they're less certain and less excited about the pathways they're considering. So they need more reassurance and more support than their neurotypical counterparts. And this is borne out in conversations in our qualitative research with this group as well. So young people across the age range and across the whole group all had quite similar concerns about their future, such as barriers to realising their ambitions, those barriers like age, exam results, or lack of opportunities to secure an apprenticeship, as well as concerns with their own mindset. But for people with individual needs related to neurodiversity, the group that we spoke to revealed additional concerns. And some of the conversations that we had with young people from the neurodiverse group showed that they worried about their disability would create a bad impression, or perhaps that their dyslexia would get in the way of their studies, for example. So we did see that this group are really determined to do well, but those additional worries demonstrate quite a critical need for employers to work to understand those individual challenges and circumstances of neurodiverse people. Now, I said earlier that the neurodiverse group in our research are less likely to be considering university and a little more likely to be considering going straight into apprenticeship or straight into the workplace. Many of them think that moving away from home would be a challenge and that is a lot to cope with, and they're less likely to see university as an opportunity to open up a career path for them, which resonates back with our finding that they're more unsure and they're more unconfident about their future career path. And looking a bit deeper into the responses on apprenticeships from this group, we can see that the neurodiverse group, they see many of the same benefits of apprenticeships that those in the neurotypical group see, such as earning and learning and practical skills. But we also see that there are further benefits for them as well. And they see apprenticeships of a way of increasing their independence, trying new activities, enjoying a social life and making connections with employers, all as advantages of apprenticeships, more so than the other group. But then when we look into the perceived challenges of apprenticeships for the neurodiverse group, they're less concerned about having a low wage for an apprenticeship and quite a lot more concerned about coping with stress and having less support than the university route, travelling to work, and it's that concern about unfamiliar territory that we've seen throughout this research that they really need reassurance on. So although they're still motivated by earning their own money, and that's the key thing that they're looking forward to, the neurodiverse group are more likely to see additional negative aspects of apprenticeships as well. So I think we can see some distinct themes emerging through the focus on this neurodiverse group. They're less sure and they're less excited about their future, and they're less likely to have thought about or planned their next steps. They're more worried about their physical and mental health and feeling lonely or isolated. So for employers and providers that are looking to connect with this demographic, then it's important to bear in mind that they'll likely need lots of reassurance on their ability to cope, study and assessment. They'll need to know what support is available, and they'll need to know that they'll be supported, and they'll need to know the details, even down to practicalities like travel time and lunch breaks. And we see some read across from the challenges of the neurodiverse group when we look at those from more disadvantaged backgrounds. And I can see that the slides have appeared now, which is fantastic news. Albeit perhaps for different reasons. So for this part of the study, we compared a group of individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds with a group from a higher one. And again, we see that there's less confidence and less certainty about the future in the lower socioeconomic group. They're less likely to worry about long-term career options, but they're more worried about the immediate concerns and the short-term realities, like the cost of doing an apprenticeship or getting into debt. And when it comes to university or apprenticeship, that question, university or apprenticeship, they're significantly more likely than the better off group to have completely ruled out going to university, and they're much less likely to have ruled out doing an apprenticeship. And that may well be due to them getting more limited career support than the other group, as we found that they're also less likely to have had careers guidance from teachers or to feel that their teachers help them in connecting what they learn at school to future careers. Now, both the groups were clear about the advantages of doing an apprenticeship, like earning a wage and learning new skills, but the responses were broadly in line between the two groups. But the lower socioeconomic group were less clear on the benefits of going to university, and fewer of them saw independence or living somewhere new as advantages, and they were more likely than individuals from higher socioeconomic backgrounds to say that they had no idea at all about the benefits of university, or that they saw no benefits at all. And again, we found that this group is much more concerned about the cost of university, just as they were concerned about the cost of apprenticeships. And they are more worried about getting into debt than their more well-off counterparts. And when we looked at how this group felt about work, they were more concerned with the immediate realities of work rather than their long-term future, with fewer people saying that going straight into work might result in a lack of career options or lower wages. So there is a positive to be found here for apprentice employers and educators in the room today, in that this group are less likely to be drawn into misconceptions that apprenticeships limit future earnings or career options, but their perceptions of going straight into work are quite similar. So this suggests that sharing more or better information on the benefits of your apprenticeship programmes over going into work would be really valuable to them. And echoing a theme that we saw amongst the neurodiverse group, they're further behind in their planning for the future than the more disadvantaged group. And this could well be down to limited access to specialised career guidance in their life. And running all the way through the study into this particular group is concern and worry about immediate cost, whether that's for an apprenticeship or going to university. So information and reassurance about wages and finance is a real priority here for connecting with this demographic. The next line of focus for us in this study was how gender influenced how people discovered apprenticeships. And for this, we compared women in the study who were interested in STEM with those considering non-STEM related careers. And looking at the entire research group as a whole, there are clear differences, of course, in the decision-making process between boys and girls, with girls much more likely to say that, that going to university, that they are going to university rather than doing an apprenticeship. And that's consistent in girls all the way through from year 9 to year 12. For boys, they treat university and apprenticeships equally until they hit year 12. And that's when we see decisions to go to university increase and decisions to do an apprentice decrease. And boys are more likely to look forward to giving up study altogether, whereas girls are more likely to be excited about exploring the world. But girls aren't underrepresented in higher education or apprenticeships. So we thought it would be more interesting to compare women interested in STEM with those considering non-STEM subjects, as they're a group that is particularly challenging for employers to attract and recruit. So what's really positive is that girls considering STEM careers, they feel like their voice is being heard, we found, and when they're making decisions about their future, they told us that the work that employers and education providers have done in this space has been really effective, and that perhaps that indicates that stereotypes and historic biases are indeed being broken down. And this group, another positive here, are being proactive about doing their research into their post-18 options. And they're also more likely to say that their school or college has done most of the work in providing them with careers information, which is great. But fewer of them say that their parents have given them the most information, or that they found those careers conversations with their parents useful. And that's probably linked to the fact that fewer in the STEM group say that none of their friends or family have been in a STEM career. And it could be that their teachers are actually filling that gap that is not met by their parents or their peers or other influences in their life. Women in STEM are less likely than the others to be considering an apprenticeship by about 17 percentage points, and they're more likely to be thinking about universities, so that's 89 to 71%. And individuals in the STEM group are more likely to see challenges with apprenticeships, like low wages and having to travel to work. So they may need to hear messages that challenge their perception of apprenticeships, particularly around the academic and study element of an apprenticeship and around the chances to specialise in a particular subject of interest. And we can reasonably draw from this as well that there's a lack of awareness of the excellent STEM apprenticeships available, and there's a need, therefore, to increase the visibility of those excellent apprenticeships through employers trying to engage earlier on with schools. So employers looking to connect with this group should think about how they can address the gap that this group find in conversations with friends and parents, because there is a gap there, who don't have a lot of STEM experience. They're more likely to need to hear information and reassurance about the short and long-term financial benefits of apprenticeships, and have their perceptions challenged about how rigorous the study element of an apprenticeship is. Now, the final area of focus for us was how choices differed based on ethnicity. Now, the breadth of numbers across different ethnic backgrounds across that study of 1,000 people was actually quite small. So for this part of the study, we compared those that identified as being white with those that identified as being from ethnically diverse communities. And in the ethnically diverse group, respondents were more likely to be considering an apprenticeship and university as opposed to going straight into work. And within that, they were a little more likely to want to go to university than do an apprenticeship. They were also more likely to have given their post-18 options more thought than those that identified as being from white ethnicities. So for apprenticeships, this group are well aware of the benefits of apprenticeships. They're less likely to see earning a wage as a key benefit, but they're more likely to see apprenticeships as a way of trying new activities, developing new skills and making new connections with employers. And then when we look at the influencers of this group, the ethnically diverse group were just as likely as the white group to discuss their future careers with their parents, but they were a lot more likely to discuss their options with the wider family, such as brothers and sisters. They're also more likely to find those conversations useful than those from the white backgrounds, by about 10 percentage points, actually. But one of the most striking differences between the two groups is the pressure that the ethnically diverse group feel from their parents. So 63% of the ethnically diverse group said that they felt pressure from their parents to make good career and education decisions, and that's compared to just 45% in the white group. So we can perhaps draw from this that culturally, parents are more involved and a greater influence here. And looking a bit more into apprenticeships, ethnically diverse respondents in the survey, they were more hungry for information, and they're particularly interested in salary information, they're particularly interested in the reality of the apprenticeship experience, and they're more likely to want to know how applications work and what it's really like to be an apprentice, to have that real, authentic insight. So in contrast to some of the themes that we've seen running through some of the other diverse groups that I've spoken about today, our ethnically diverse group are actually further on in their planning for the future than those from the white backgrounds. And although they're very aware of the benefits of apprenticeships, employers wanting to connect with this demographic could think about how to get them information on the realities of an apprenticeship. And they also need some reassurance on salaries as well. And it's also important to consider how much of an influence that family is in this group, more so than the white group, and particularly the pressure element from parents. So accurate information for influencers to support guidance to this group is really valuable. So, some final thoughts and takeaways for us in the room today, because I think this insight does reveal some opportunities for us to consider in strategies for connecting with young people. And whether we're talking about neurodiverse individuals or those from lower socioeconomic groups, if it's women considering STEM careers or ethnically diverse group, there are distinct themes that come through that can help us talk to those diverse groups. So for the neurodiverse group, the priority is reassurance and support. That's very clear running through the research. They need clear and detailed information about workplace expectations, pathways and the practicalities of life, and flexibility in their messaging as well. So employers really need to work to foster a kind of sense of belonging and optimism. And really, they need to emphasise that neurodiverse individuals will be valued and supported. For those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, financial factors are a really critical concern. So providing accessible information on wages, on financial support, and the long-term benefits of apprenticeships is going to really resonate with them. And doing all we can in outreach operations to those communities will make sure that they're well informed, and this in turn will help bridge that gap. And then for women in STEM that are considering STEM careers, it's important to those that those misconceptions that they have about apprenticeships are really challenged by people looking to connect with this group, and that the opportunities for them to specialise and the rigorous academic opportunities of apprenticeships really land. We saw that there are fewer opportunities for conversations with parents and friends about STEM careers in this group, so reaching out to target the influencers in their lives is really likely to have an impact. And then finally, for ethnically diverse groups, we see again that the right information and messages to influencers are really important here. So detailed information about apprenticeship processes, about salaries and real-world experiences, whilst also recognising the influential role of family in those career decisions is needed. And tailored messaging to both young people and their families can help alleviate pressure and ensure informed choices. And then across all those groups that we talked about today, targeted information, support and reassurance about all career pathways is what they need to hear from employers. So they truly feel that they're being spoken to, and they truly feel that your workplace or your apprenticeship programs are for them. Now, we've launched this insight as a series of snapshots for each of these diverse groups this week, so it really is hot off the press. So if you follow our UCAS Early Careers LinkedIn page, and you'll see the QR code up there, you'll be able to read about it in more depth, and you can also subscribe to our UCAS Early Careers newsletter as well to stay up to date with all the news of our insight in 2025. We also have a UCAS stand in the exhibition hall as well, and we've got these cards, our Project Next Generation cards. If you go over and see my colleagues on the stand, take one of these cards, and it's got a link directly to the UCAS research, and it'd be great to have a conversation with you about that.